You know, so I don't want to say something, but I know some people don't like it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm the type of person that stay out of my way.
Hello, sir.
I don't know if Holly can support me. You can fit.
Sorry.
I don't want to shout.
They were blocking them that way, so I came to this side. No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, Bob is coming. Bob and Joe at 250 voting. He'll be here shortly.
Okay, I think we're ready. I hope. Okay. Hi. My name is Catherine Freed. Quick background. I used to be a city council person from Lower Manhattan, and I'm a recently retired New York State Supreme Court Justice. I'm also a plaintiff on our lawsuit. And this, essentially, our group is of New Yorkers against congestion pricing tax. We are different from a lot of the other lawsuits in that we're a grassroots group of a lot of concerned New Yorkers who came together with our concerns about congestion pricing and how we believe it will affect us, not only the environment and traffic, but also business. And the press conference today has been called because we are now up to almost 50 plaintiffs from various sectors of the city. And one of the areas that does not get enough play, we believe, is businesses and the impact that the congestion pricing tax will have on businesses, especially in the central business district. It's an area that no one's talking about, and it's an area, a sector that has already had a lot of hits from COVID and from the results of that, and a lot of businesses are very worried about how congestion pricing is going to hit them, especially if they have to depend on tourism. And they're also concerned about the fact that many of their workers come from outside of the district, and they get hit with essentially what is a $4,000 to $6,000 cut in their salaries. And also the fact that all goods and services coming into the central business district, the trucks, because we have no rail, so it's all trucks. Trucks are going to get hit with $24 or $36 every time they come into the central business district. So the first thing I want to do is remind people that the hearings are coming up in front of the MTA for congestion pricing, and we would hope that everyone would participate and say whether they like it, if they have problems, particularly, obviously we think there are problems that we'd like to see dealt with. And we're really calling for an environmental impact statement, because anyone who lives in the city knows that after COVID, the entire traffic pattern of the city has changed. I mean, we've got everything from sidewalk sheds to open New York to a lot of the traffic calming that really slows traffic down. And these are things that were not dealt with in the environmental assessment that the MTA filed with the federal government. And what we really need is a new environmental impact statement that takes all of the changes into effect, that doesn't deal with whatever the traffic was before COVID, but now a lot of the traffic studies they've done were from like 9 years ago. There have been major changes. It's not fair to those of us who live in the city. It's not just in the congestion pricing district, but this doesn't take the realities of our city into effect, and that's why we're suing for an environmental impact statement. All right, so if you want to testify, and you can testify in person or online or by email or fax or audio voicemail, comments will be accepted through Monday, March 11th. You can visit, it's bit.ly say no toll tax, which is bit.ly/say no toll tax. There are also talking points at bit.ly /no way toll tax. All right. I think I've mentioned that we now have almost 50 plaintiffs that are on our lawsuit. We have a lot of current and former elected officials that have joined in. We have all 5 boroughs. We have Long Island. We electeds from Long Island and some people from Long Island who are concerned about this. And we just emphasize how the MTA failed to consider the impact of congestion pricing on environmental justice communities, especially where I'm from in the Lower East Side, where their own projections show that some areas will get between a 19 to 20% increase in congestion and pollution. It's an environmental justice area. It's over a majority of people of color. There are people of low income. And one thing that they tend to forget, we don't have mass transit over there. I live near the FDR Drive. I am almost a mile from the nearest subway station. Furthermore, there are no accessible stations between City Hall and 14th Street. So even if you can get a bus to the subway station, you may not be able to get into it. These are things they have not taken into effect, and we want to see them take them into effect. We want them to be concerned about our health. Just yesterday, another study came out that talks specifically about the impacts of traffic air pollution that causes different forms of dementia and Alzheimer's. They also came out with something yesterday that the MTA has changed how they deal with disabilities, and they're making it more difficult for the disabled to get credit, to forego the tax. All right. So, what can I say? As I think I emphasized, one of the things that reasons we're having today's press conference is the EIS would take into consideration the economic impact on businesses. They did almost no surveys in their environmental assessment that the MTA submitted to the federal government about the impact of small businesses. So the first person I'm going to recognize is Steve Traub. Okay, Steve owns the Wall Street Grill at 75 Wall Street, right?
Yes.
All right. Just to give you a quick background, Mr. Traub employs 67 individuals on a daily average. They serve 220 customers. The restaurant relies on patrons from the 5 boroughs, Long Island, New Jersey, Muncie, Westchester, and the surrounding tri-state area. Like many businesses, they rely on people coming to it, and they're a destination. Mr. Traub says that he estimates a 40% decrease in business because of congestion pricing. His business will be negatively impacted due to the increased cost of truck deliveries, and his business depends on. In fact, pretty much all businesses do. Like I said, we don't have rail freight in New York. Everything comes in by truck. His estimation is that he will eliminate staff and hours by 45%. And he's just representative of all the restaurant owners and other shop owners in the district. I guess you'll be around if they want to talk to you later. All right. Oh, sure. All right. Before we get to the next business, I want to invite the elected officials who've been supporting us from the beginning to step up. I know they just came out of a vote from it, and they have committee hearings and they have to get back. So,
first, we would like to introduce Councilmember Vicky Palladino, who is one of our plaintiffs in the initial complaint that was filed in the Southern District of New York on January 18th. So I just want to emphasize that the lawsuit that we filed yesterday is an amendment to the initial lawsuit that was filed January 18th in the Southern District of New York. And Councilmember Palladino has been supportive of our cause against congestion pricing. Thank you, Councilmember Palladino.
Thank you very much, everybody, for having us back. This seems awfully redundant, doesn't it? We keep repeating the same thing again and again and again. We heard here today about the truckers and how they come in. This is very clear, very simple. The MTA is a slush fund. The MTA has already got a $20 billion budget. It was $1.3 billion they needed from the state additional to tide them over. We have now got a city that's going to be choked to death, whether you are a porter, a waiter, or whether you own a high-end hotel here in the city of New York. This congestion pricing, there's got at least 6 or 7 lawsuits against it right now. And the UFT, to show you how bad it is, they even have their lawsuit against this. What they are trying to do now, the MTA, is they put out something just the other day, yesterday I believe, with ribbons and bows on it to try to convince New Yorkers why congestion pricing is a good thing. Congestion pricing is going to bankrupt small business and the middle class people. Manhattan Island will cease to exist as we know it. And that's as simple as that. Congestion pricing is a black hole. It will always be a black hole. It cannot happen to the greatest city in the world. It'll be another nail in our coffin that's already been built over the last 5 to 8 years. Thank you very much, everybody.
And next we'll have Councilmember Susan Zhuang. She is a newly elected council member representing Brooklyn, and she wants to have a few words.
I'm Councilmember Susan Zhuang. I'm the first Chinese American City Council member from Brooklyn. We have a large number of people in my district, probably 70% immigrants. A lot of them are seniors, and a lot of them, they don't speak English at all. And a lot of them are disabled. And they always come to Chinatown to see their doctors. And now you need to tell them, hey, you need to pay $30 more. 75 years old and 80 years old grandparents, you have to come here to pay extra money to see your doctors. I have to tell you, large of them will tell you guys, I will not go see my doctors. The congestion price really puts people's health in danger. This is not the right thing to do. We want the health in the community. We want the convenience to the community. We do not need extra tax to the community. We need to speak up for the people, lower income, middle income, and the small business. A lot of business in my district, especially for 8th Avenue, they have the business have to travel between Manhattan Chinatown to Brooklyn Chinatown. $30 a day for one trip. That's a lot of money to them. Will our city government and any government reduce their tax? No, they only increase their tax. We need to stand up for our small business people, stand up for our seniors, stand up for our low income and middle income families. $30 for rich people is nothing, just a penny. But how about for our working class? We need to fight for our working class. As the mother, as the first Asian American City Council member in Brooklyn, we need to speak up for our people. Thank you. We don't need congestion price.
Thank you, Councilmember Zhuang. Just to demonstrate that we have such a large coalition, we have Councilmember Susan Zhuang from Brooklyn, Councilmember Vicky Palladino from Queens. Next, we have David Carr, Councilmember David Carr from Staten Island.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the organizers for bringing us here together once again. And the MTA was in such a rush to get this congestion theft pricing through that they didn't even properly do the environmental assessment. They did some sort of environmental review, but it was not, as has been pointed out, an environmental impact statement. And if you look at the little assessment that they did, it's little wonder why, because what they're showing us is probably just the tip of the iceberg. We already know from their own facts that New York City is not going to get cleaner from an environmental perspective because of congestion pricing. They're just moving the congestion smog around, and they're going to be poisoning communities that are already transit deserts, communities that have to use their cars. Environmental justice communities like Kathy Freed was talking about. One of them is in Staten Island, another that you mentioned here in Manhattan, many others, places in the Bronx that are going to be less clean, that are going to have more fog-fumed air as people try to avoid the congestion charge. And this is all just so that they can pick our pockets again to fund a transit system that's not really serving us, or at least not serving us adequately. So that's the situation that they're in. They have violated the law. That's why we filed this lawsuit, and that's why we're going to win this lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Carr. And then next, we have another representative from Brooklyn, Councilmember Yeager.
Thank you very much. First, I just want to thank Judge Freed, former member of this body, at a time when we had giants walk through the halls of this institution. And I say that because you really should see many, many more members of the City Council out here. This is a problem that's going to hit every single neighborhood in the city, but far too few public officials have the courage to say so. We do, and we're going to be truthful. It's not congestion pricing, because it's not about congestion. And if it was, then at 2 o'clock in the morning, they wouldn't charge you, because what congestion are they trying to battle at 2 o'clock in the morning? This is simply a scheme to take billions of dollars from the taxpayers of New York City and funnel it into a failing agency that cannot manage its own budget, that can't build something on time and under budget or even on budget, and that has been an abysmal failure in its management. And instead of addressing how to fix the MTA and the MTA to fix itself, the MTA and their enablers in Albany have decided that they're going to come after us, taxpayers of New York City. So what's the alternative to riding in a car to come to the city? Well, they'll tell you everybody should park their cars and get on the subway. The subway? This subway, the subway in New York City, the one where you risk your life literally to get on it, the filthy subway where you can't possibly walk by a single station and not trip over people sleeping in them, and the city and state have done nothing to clean it up. The subway system where you walk into a car and ride one stop and come out smelling like marijuana that was smoked on the subway as you're riding. No enforcement, no anything, no cleanliness, no public safety, and that's what they want parents and families to take their kids on. You have 5 kids and you need to come to the city for a doctor's appointment? Don't take a car, get on the subway. It's fun, it's fair, it's free for everybody. Because it is, except for those of us who pay. The rest of us, we watch as the turnstiles are jumped, as the doors are held open, as city buses, you can come on in the back door, everybody aboard, nobody has to pay. Who has to pay? The guy who wants to get into his car and go to his job where he's making 15 bucks an hour washing dishes, but his shift is 6 p.m. to midnight, and that's the only way for him to get home safely is taking his car. He has to take the subway. This is not about cleaning the environment. The environmental studies that were done were deliberately designed to come to a predetermined outcome of this is great for New York, when every clear-thinking person knows it's not. And this lawsuit is important because we're taking the hands out of politicians who can't make an honest decision, and we're giving it to the courts to make sure that the law is being followed. And that's why I'm so proud to support this lawsuit. I'm so grateful to have the support of so many New Yorkers from all the boroughs, my good colleagues who are here, and Andrew Fine, of course, is helping lead this effort. I have to mention you. And thank you very much for your appreciation.
And then we have so many elected officials who are supporting us. The last elected official I want to highlight is Minority Leader Councilmember Zhuang.
Not to regurgitate what everyone else probably said, I want to talk briefly about Staten Island. Imagine the other 4 boroughs with one subway line. Just one. So go to Brooklyn, pick the best one, pick the one that goes from Coney Island into Midtown or downtown. Pick one subway line. What would the rest of the people in Brooklyn be forced to do? They'd have to drive a car. Staten Island has that unique situation where we're not a New York City transit borough, we're not connected to the subways, but we're also not a Metro North or LIRR borough or county because our connection stops at the water. So look around the MTA region and tell me where else do we have a scenario where either a commuter line stops at the water and that's it, get off, you're screwed, or we're a borough of the city of New York, but New York City Transit says go scratch. I believe, and I know my constituents believe, that the MTA has screwed us for generations. They built a big, beautiful bridge, the Verrazano Bridge, in 1964, have been extracting money from us all these years. Never once have they improved transit. In fact, when Staten Island was its own city and county before 1898, true story, we had 3 rail lines and multiple ferry connections to New Jersey and the rest of the city. The MTA has screwed us, so on behalf of all New Yorkers, especially Staten Islanders, to the MTA board, screw you.
Hey, excellent, Joe.
I'm going to say
All right, thank you, council members, and I applaud your courage to do what your constituents actually want. All right, next, I'm going to introduce Frank Gonzalez. Actually, Frank's no friend of mine, but he's a real estate broker. He's a co-founder of the Lower East Side Small Business Alliance and a board member of the East Village Independent Merchants Association. So, Frank, where are you? There you are.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Francisco Gonzalez. I'm a lifelong resident of Alphabet City, community activist, and co-founder of the LES Small Business Alliance. My parents' apartment, the apartment I grew up in, overlooks the mega Con Edison plant and the FDR Drive. My apartment in the same building overlooks the Con Edison plant. The air quality here has always been worse. We have high rates of asthma, respiratory illnesses, cancer cases in our location. What's going to happen when the FDR Drive becomes a parking garage? With the lack of trees, with all the constructions in the East River Park, it's only a recipe for disaster. I have residents and local small businesses who are super concerned about the higher cost congestion pricing will bring. Our food and our products are already too damn high because of inflation. What's going to happen to our supply chain? It's only going to get more expensive. To be very clear, congestion pricing is just another way to push out and get rid of poor, middle class, and small businesses in the CBD, Central Business District. This is not fair. This is not American. I'm proud to stand against congestion pricing and everyone here. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Raul Rivera. He represents the NYC Taxi Drivers Unite. Raul?
Good afternoon. My name is Raul Rivera. I'm the founder of NYC Drivers Unite. We're here showing support to the drivers. We are for this lawsuit. We are happy that it's taking place. We want to remind the city and the council members that we have 175,000 small business owners. You don't see them because they don't have a storefront, but the taxi driver, the TLC driver, is a small business owner. They file a 1099, and we want everybody to know that this congestion pricing is a crime against the New Yorker. It's a crime against the taxi driver, and we say no today, tomorrow, forever. We also want to remind Councilmember Brooks Powers that she should be standing here with us. She is the chair to the Transportation Committee, and she says she defends people of color. This congestion pricing is going to affect people of color. And if you say you are for people of color, then you need to be here. If you can't be here, it's very simple. Stop saying you defend people of color. Thank you so much.
All right, next we're going to hear from Peter Zabrowski.
Zabelskis. Hi, I'm Peter Zabelskis. I'm a plaintiff in one of the lawsuits. I'm a retired university professor. I have been living in the East Village for 46 years. All of my grandparents came to New York around 1900 with $5 in their pocket. They settled in Manhattan on the East Side. So as I said, I've been living in the East Village for 46 years. The East Village is not the Central Business District. The West Village is not the Central Business District, nor is the Lower East Side. These have been areas of great creative talent, small-scale industry. I remember the time when there were printed paper phone books, and at one point the phone company decided to have a separate business phone directory. And everyone in my neighborhood said, "This is crazy, what are they talking about?" Everybody here has some kind of business going on. All of that will be devastated by this plan. I am disabled, but not officially so. The plan to exempt disabled people only if they are officially disabled does not apply to me. I refuse to be stigmatized by being declared officially disabled. The proposal to give a tax deduction for your tolls, your congestion tolls, is a slap in the face. Not only am I low income, I am no income. I am living on my savings until I can start to collect Social Security. I have had a car. I lived in the East Village for 46 years. I've had a car for about 30 of those years. I have dutifully moved the car twice a week for the sweeper for 30 years. I would be devastated without my car. I would completely lose my sense of independence and self-reliance. I would be forced to rely on other city services for food delivery, for transportation to medical care, etc. This would devastate, above all, the creative industries that these areas have long been known for. Every day I see people, not just on weekends, drive in from Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, and Jersey to come visit these areas. They look around, they want to see creativity. Yes, the restaurants are expensive, but they spend money. That would all stop. There would be massive inflation due to higher cost of deliveries, and why should people downtown bear that brunt of that excess cost? And you're living uptown at expensive rents, you get away scot-free. This plan must be stopped. It will destroy neighborhoods that are the lifeblood of New York City, and there would be no turning back. We would be left with a wasteland of fast food franchise places that no one would want to live in that area, and certainly no one would want to come to visit that area. It is devastating for both residents and small businesses and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I also want to announce that Assemblymember Novikov, who is from South Brooklyn, is a plaintiff. He could not be here today. He does have a representative here, but he wanted me to mention that he's been supporting us and he is a plaintiff. All right, next we're going to hear from Vito Labella. Vito?
Thank you so much. My name is Vito Labella. I live in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I grew up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I want to piggyback on everything that everyone said. They've all touched on the issues. I was a cop for 32 years, working midnights. I can tell you that the midnight cops, we have this kind of, this camaraderie between us. It's not just between cops, it's cops and firefighters and nurses and all the people that come in and keep the city alive and thriving, from 11 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. And most of these people, they have to drive in because they're off hours. And these people, it's a tax on them. They're not getting any relief. And these are working people. So this is a regressive tax on them. And Yeager said it's not really about congestion, because if it was, then we would have less congestion in the evenings. My son's a musical theater actor. My kids love Broadway. Trying to get home to Bay Ridge on the R train at 11 o'clock at night is an hour and a half trek when you could be home in 20 minutes. If it was really about congestion pricing, those people would be able to get out of the city or come into the city to come see a Broadway show at 6 o'clock in the evening and not be penalized. I took care of my mom as a caregiver. Her doctors were at Weill Cornell. My wife comes in every 2 months for a procedure. She can't come on the subway. She's got under anesthesia. We take the car in, we park in the lot, and she's not in the mood to jump in an Uber. So all of these things are legitimate. They impact real people. And that's why we have to stop this congestion pricing, amend it the best way we can if we can't get rid of it altogether, and make it reasonable. And let's not talk about how the subways, how crime has increased by 20, 30%. When I was a cop, we got crime down to historic lows from 1989 to 2017. Over the last 8 years, thanks to really poor policy, crime in the subway and crime in the city has gone up, and you're forcing people to go into an environment that is not as safe as it was. So let's address all of these issues, and let's get this environmental impact statement, and let's not really destroy Manhattan and the working people that make it what it is. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We may be joined by a few other council members. As I said, they're in committees. They're going to try and be here. I just want to do, if you will, a message from our sponsor for people. If they want to know more about our group, it's New Yorkers Against Congestion Pricing Tax.com. And we do have a GoFundMe site, because I also emphasize the fact that we are grassroots. We need the support so far. We've been doing very well. People have supported us, as we said, from all sectors. And we're going to also hear from our president, our chair, Susan Lee.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you all for being here today. The last time we had a press conference, it was freezing cold. So today was a nice weather to have at this press conference. I am so thankful for the elected officials that were here today, for the plaintiffs, the small business owners who took time from their busy schedules to stand with us. We couldn't do this alone, and I want to thank the committee members that are here with me, and also the steering committee who have been working tirelessly. We've been meeting weekly and then sometimes twice a week to make sure that the litigation goes forward. As I've mentioned before, we just filed amended complaint yesterday to the initial complaint that was filed in the Southern District of New York on January 18th. We believe that congestion pricing is a regressive tax, inequitable, and it is hurting the working class New Yorkers. It needs to be repealed. We are asking for an environmental impact study on the true, not just environmental issues, but also the economic loss and the inequity of this policy. Data was used from pre-COVID, before businesses were decimated, before the rise in the number of for-hire vehicles that are truly clogging our streets today. So we need to examine the additional variables, and this is what the environmental impact study will do. Thank you so much, and I'm sure that we have people in attendance who would be happy to speak with the press. Thank you for being here today. Yeah, sure.
Are there questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What's your take about the special interest groups like Riders Alliance, Transportation Alternative, Street Blogs, and Open Plans being against this, being against the congestion? You guys protesting today, right?
I mean, we don't want to get into a war with this. We have a fundamental difference. And the difference is that we look at the facts and we look at the impacts that have affected residents of the city. Not everyone can buy a bicycle. Not everyone can ride a bicycle. But everyone has to get around. And the fact that we are represented by so many different segments of the population lets you know that there are a lot of people that are going to be impacted by this. And as you just heard Susan mention, the fact that we didn't have such congestion until we got so many for-hire vehicles. And the city, actually I think it was the mayor, just took the cap off of electric for-hire vehicles at a time when presumably they're trying to get congestion down. And yet they seem to be working at odds with it. So we believe that what the positions we're voicing represents the concerns of so many people. You've heard from some business owners. Some business owners couldn't be here today because they literally are running their business. But businesses, areas like Chinatown, which is also an old neighborhood, areas like the theater district, which is still down 17% from before COVID. And if you've been in Chinatown, Chinatown not only has the problem with the congestion pricing, they have a mega jail, they have other problems, they haven't been able to bounce back. This could very easily be the death knell for a lot of businesses in Chinatown.
Oh, speaking of Chinatown, one more thing. Speaking of Chinatown, Assembly Member Grace Lee, Councilmember Christopher Marte, and State Senator Brian Kavanaugh, they're for congestion pricing, but the way they award it is they're for congestion pricing, but they're looking for exemptions. So what do you take about them pushing for more exemptions instead of them being really against the tax like you guys are?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't work. If you start doing exemptions first, there are like 200 different groups that want exemptions. Where do you draw the line? Listen, I would get that exemption. I live in their district. But it doesn't work because I'm more concerned about the pollution and the traffic congestion. I'm more concerned about businesses working. And by the way, that exemption only works if you have a car. What about those of us who don't have a car, but our everyday cost of living is going up because we have to get goods and services, and because we will have to take, if we can't get mass transit, and I already told you there's a problem with mass transit because we don't have much in the Lower East Side. If you have to take for-hire vehicles, it's gonna cost you more. It's more difficult if you're disabled. It's more difficult if you live on limited income. We have a lot of elderly in our area that have limited income. this is not a good idea. It impacts so many people unfairly. And by the way, you know, it says it's a congestion pricing district, the central business district. I live in the Lower East Side. I don't live in the central business district. You've got some of the oldest neighborhoods in the city that they've thrown into this, like the Village, like Chelsea, like Chinatown.
I have a question. You said that since 2020 that you've noticed that there have been all these weird traffic patterns. I've noticed that they've added to congestion, and I've also noticed as a small business that had to close after 10 years, thank you 2020 policies, that the added bike lanes did not contribute to foot traffic. So this idea to me seems like maybe a climate justice push, reducing emissions. Do you see this?
I mean, I honestly don't think so. If you look at the legislation, it needs to generate $1 billion in revenue. It did not mention, I mean, it mentioned probably in passing the environment. The ulterior motive is to generate $1 billion in revenue for the MTA. So, you know, going back to that question that Chris just mentioned, our elected officials who supported this legislation are talking about exemptions. Let's talk about equity. If there are exemptions for people in the central business district, then if they need to generate $1 billion in revenue, they're going to have to ask other people who are coming into the zone to pay more than $50 to generate the $1 billion in revenue. So therefore, as a resident in the district, I am opposed to it because I'm for equity. Everyone needs to have a fair share. This is a regressive tax. I think that, you know, do we have any more questions? If not, we're going to wrap it up. I think that we have some people that can stay and talk to you for a little bit if you guys want to take interviews. But our time for the steps is over. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.